Call of Duty Vanguard is nearly upon us, and it has lots of implications for Call of Duty Warzone, something that a lot of us are playing right now and will probably continue to play as the integration goes live. Now, for those of you who follow the channel, I was recently shadow banned from Warzone and then unbanned today, which is fantastic, and it gave me some time to play Vanguard. And one of the things I noticed concerned me. So if you aren't aware, Call of Duty is currently testing a new mode in Warzone called Iron Trials 84, and it adds a number of different things to the mode and changes certain time to kill elements, changes lots of elements within the game, and ultimately aims to make Warzone more competitive. But there is one caveat to that, and it's kind of the elephant in the room that nobody wants to talk about yet, and that is the redacted weapons. Now, I've used one of these redacted weapons. I recently did a video on it, which you can probably see somewhere on screen. And ultimately, there is a caveat with Iron Trials 84 that these redacted weapons exist, and these weapons have the maximum number of attachments filled. This could be the first test, or hint if you will, to see whether or not Warzone would work if there were, let's say, 10 attachments in Warzone. Now, I know what you're thinking, this is crazy talk, why would they have 10 attachments? Well, Vanguard has 10 attachments, and as we've seen in the past, Call of Duty is absolutely fine with effectively forcing weapons into redundancy. When Call of Duty Cold War released, it had a mobility bonus over every single weapon that existed in Modern Warfare. There is no Modern Warfare weapon that makes you move quicker than any given Cold War counterpart. So effectively, Modern Warfare SMGs and assault rifles in many ways have been forced into redundancy. And the reason they've done that is very simple, because ultimately balancing that many weapons for a battle royale is incredibly complicated and makes things quite difficult. But because people have purchased cosmetics for these things, they can't really, put them on the shelf. They can't really take them away from people because they've told them that they exist in Warzone and that they can use these cosmetics within Warzone. So the solution is forced redundancy. Make an entire bracket of weaponry less useful, and then that way, when you release the next game, everybody will be using those weapons. And there's no denying that, and of course there's no denying the fact that by everybody using Vanguard weapons or Cold War weapons, it helps them push sales for the base game, because then people will be complied to measure and level up their weapons in the base game rather than in Warzone. So it is absolutely a possibility that we will see Call of Duty Warzone go to 10 attachments to fit Call of Duty Vanguard. And because they're on the same engine, it's entirely possible that this will happen from the second the integration begins. And the reason for that is because it will ultimately make all the Cold War weapons redundant, make people inclined to buy Call of Duty Vanguard, and spend money on Vanguard skins. But why is this a problem? Why would 10 attachments be an issue in Warzone? Surely if they just balance it, it won't be an issue, right? Well, not really. And the problem with having 10 attachments is that you ultimately get to create god tier weapons with very little downside. You could create an STG-44 that is fantastic at long range, but also has the mobility and aim down sight speed of a weapon that shouldn't have that kind of attachment loadout. For every build you make in Warzone at the moment, there is a downside to that build. If you want to make a long range assault rifle, then you make that assault rifle slower to reload, and slower to aim down sight. If you want to make a mobility SMG, then the SMG is less accurate and probably might require a larger magazine size. And every build you possibly can make comes with some kind of trade-off, including some of the Cold War weapons. Even their versions of long-range assault rifles such as the AK-47, which benefit from being a long-range AR, ultimately mean that it's a much slower weapon than it could be. Now imagine you have that same Cold War AK-47 which is long range, but you put a Tiger Team Spotlight barrel on it, you give it a faster ADS speed by adding a stock and a tape to it, and maybe you decide to add something else as well that feasibly could increase its mobility. You effectively get a weapon that has no downsides. It ADSs quickly, it moves quickly, it is a weapon that can be used at long range and medium and close range. It just becomes this massive mess of balancing that ultimately means you get weapons which have zero drawbacks and 100% profitability in terms of how they perform in Warzone. It also drastically means that Modern Warfare and Cold War weapons will have no place in Warzone, and there are lots of other downsides as well, including overcomplicating the balancing system, making it difficult for players to understand what actually works in terms of weapon attachments, And really, it's just a simple principle. For those of you who are unfamiliar with the philosophical term of Occam's razor, the idea is pretty simple. You don't multiply entities beyond necessity. And this is exactly what this feels like. It's like, oh yeah, you can have a magazine with a different ammunition type, but what if we make the ammunition type and magazine two separate things? There's just no need for it, and it overcomplicates things. It makes things more difficult than they need to be. It also creates a bigger margin of error for something being more broken. Everybody knows right now, for example, that the Gallo is broken, and the Gallo is broken primarily because there is an attachment that allows for an increase in rate of fire as well as effective damage range, meaning that you can hit people from further away and shoot faster at the same time. Now imagine if those were two separate attachments, and again you would have two issues colliding with one another rather than one simple attachment that simply needs one fix. And with all due respect to Raven Software, their track record of balancing these things has been absolutely abysmal. So when you decide to add 5 more attachments into the fray, things could get far more messier. And it's only a matter of time before Redditors, YouTubers, or even just the average Joe comes across a weapon combination or attachment combination which effectively ruins the entire meta of Warzone. And we've seen this happen time and time and again. We had it with the Type 63, we had it with the DMR, we've had it with machine pistols, we've had it with flaming shotguns, we've had it with the Kilo, we've had it with the Grau, we've had it with pretty much anything that you can name in the game has at some point had an attachment setup that's made them absolutely ridiculously overpowered. So when you start introducing more attachments to that equation, and more possible ways for a combination to be found in which something is ridiculously overpowered, then you end up with an absolute nightmare scenario in Warzone. Now again, this isn't absolutely confirmed yet. They haven't flat out said that they're doing 10 attachments, although with Vanguard having 10 attachments by default, and Warzone having 5 by default, I can pretty much guarantee you that Warzone will adapt to Vanguard rather than the other way around. So we absolutely have a situation on our hands here where 10 attachments in Warzone may become a reality. And it may become a reality and it may become ridiculous. And my issue with this is quite simple. The redacted weapons in Iron Trials are very rare, and they're very rare because they're very good. So surely there's an understanding from the Raven Software team here that when you add more attachments to a weapon, you ultimately make it more powerful, and when you make it more powerful, you make it more overpowered, and therefore you make it more likely for somebody to win with that weapon. They must understand that concept, because they wouldn't have made these a new ultra rare of rarity that doesn't even exist prior to this update. They must understand that this is an issue that's going to plague the game. But as with all things, most likely in Warzone, it's going to be tailored to fit the bottom line of Vanguard. They will want Warzone to sell as many Vanguard possibilities as they humanly can. And if come this November/December you see that Call of Duty Vanguard is introducing 10 attachments to Warzone, you may as well not play it for a couple of months. Maybe till January or February. Because that's how long it's going to take them again to figure out the balancing issues from the last time they messed up the integration. It's just going to be a nightmare. So folks, that's about it for this video. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Leave a sub as well. We're super close to 70,000 subscribers. And as always, I'll catch you in the next one.